The Kelermorph is a lone operative. No, a lone gunman. I get all my knowledge about the United States from cowboy films, so if the cities are not just dusty desert settlements easily harassed by 5 men who own horses, please don't break my vision if that's not the case. I'm not quite sure about the tone of this model. Every time I look at it, I see a cowboy hat. Maybe that's just the Mandela effect, but this second generation hero sort of works in the tone of the Genestealer cult, but a bit more on the silly side. Not stupidly silly, like bringing a propaganda DJ to battle to inspire the troops with unts, and its twin brother, unts. Yes, he is a beacon against oppression, a lone figure vigilantly fighting against imperial cruelty. But the tone of the Genestealer cults generally are not cowboys and bandits, or Indians as they're termed in these movies, and the United States military. It is an oppressed mining group that falls somewhere between the 1890s and 1980s Britain. If he was more representative of the faction, then he would be a trade union leader. But I can see why the large company of Games Workshop didn't want to make a TU committee member a hero in their setting. If you think the reason would be because it's boring or strange to see on a tabletop, I point you again to the techno equivalent of a drummer boy and the old man staring at the table planning to take down Games Workshop from the outside. But cowboys are fun in the films! And as long as Games Workshop doesn't make it ultra-modern and have a vigilante fighting against an oppressive police force who shoot people for the slightest reason, like the armed officer felt unsafe in the civilian's presence. Because otherwise it would just be Necromunda, another Games Workshop IP set in the 41st millennium. The Kelermorph is all about friendship and inspiration when other factions are about chastisement and punishment for failure. That makes him fun, and understandably one of the more popular Genestealer cult units. Thankfully, Games Workshop didn't make him an epic hero, so he can take more than one, and there isn't just one dude teleporting around the galaxy. It is genetic to the second generation, like being a Primus. You see, the ability was inside you all along, because of a strand of Genestealer DNA implanted into your unwilling grandparent. The Kelermorph's stats are very average. Absurdly average. Movement 6, 5+ save, 3 wounds. Yeah, this is a dude. The Kelermorph is toughness 3, like the Primus, despite being a second generation, and in 9th and 10th edition, the Acolyte hybrids that are second generation went up to toughness 4, so the Kelermorph has stats more like a neophyte. This will be useful for a point later. But he doesn't have just one big iron on his hip, he has 3. And his guns go... yeah, they're not very good. His auto stubs have no armor penetration, and are now damage 1, compared to previous editions when they're damage 2. It's very weak. Yet he's not very good at shooting, the one thing he does, especially compared to what you may have been used to from 8th and 9th edition. The Liberator auto stubs have 6 shots, and he gets sustained hits D3. Now, in the current and presumed to be very long-running Genestealer cult detachment, when you come from reserve, you get sustained hits 1 anyway. Yes, D3 is better and they don't stack. It is either D3 or 1. You're able to choose which version you get. Obviously you pick the D3 that's on the guns. And he has precision to be able to shoot at characters, but strength 5 means you'll be wounding most characters on a 3. So you're looking at 4 wounds against a character. There are devastating wounds, but that relies on rolling a 6, which you'll maybe do with one of the wounds. So you will score on average 1 or 2 wounds against a character or any other infantry. So he can't do what he's done previously and pop up and blow away a character that's been left slightly exposed. He can't just turn up and destroy a unit of like 5 Celestians. Not just because Celestians don't exist anymore, but because he has no armor penetration to get through their saves. If he's going to attack a unit of Stern Guard, he might kill 1. Cometh the Hour, Cometh the Hero allows him to be set up within 3 inches of a Genestealer cult Acolyte or Neophyte squad, and 3 inches away from the enemy, but there's no particular benefit for doing so other than being another body that's on an objective. And with objective control 1, I'm not seeing exactly what you're getting out of that. The range of his pistols is 12, so why not be about 12 inches away from an enemy unit? Unless you can think of it in the comments, what's the great benefit of Cometh the Hour, Cometh the Hero? What's it used for? I would love to know your thoughts, since I know so many of you like the Kelermorph, but that may just be the aesthetic. Yes, he has lone operative, but you want to put him near a unit because of his Gunslinger ability. The Kelermorph's Gunslinger ability is kind of fun. When an enemy shoots a Genestealer cult battle line unit, so that acolyte or neophyte unit that you are near to, after that enemy unit is shot, the Kelermorph can shoot back and avenge them. The problem is, with his pistols being 12 inches, you're going to need to get him so close to the enemy that his lone operative doesn't give him any protection. Because with lone operative, you can't be shot if you're more than 12 inches away from the enemy. Well, he needs to be within 12 inches just to fire his guns. And having 3 wounds at a 5+ armor save, even a 5+ invulnerable save, it's very weak and he'll die quite quickly. There are a lot of other units across several armies that can do a very similar thing and shoot back. We've mentioned previously the World Eater's Hellbrute. Okay, so say you're here, you get shot by a las pistol. Ah! Then you go, oh, I'm gonna get you. Yeah, you don't actually need to shoot back at the unit that shot you. So then you get hit by a missile. And you go, oh, that's made me really angry. I'm a World Eater's Hellbrute. Oh, I'm gonna get... Yeah. Cypher does a similar thing, but at twice the points cost nearly. The Invader ATV does a similar thing and is better. The attack bike is exactly the same points as the Kelermorph at 55 points, but the attack bike is better. And the Necron Destroyer, the Hexmark Destroyer with the 6 pistols, very much going for the I'm a cowboy Necron, yeehaw, reanimation. I can't think of a good catchphrase for it. This rebel gunslinger called Mark is 70 points and his guns are so much better. Same 6 shots, still hitting on ballistic skill 2+, but at strength 6 and AP -2, that is a massive improvement over the Liberator auto stubs, meaning that you might actually be able to kill something. And because they're 18-inch range, then you're actually able to benefit from lone operative and shoot without being shot back. There's a weird quirk in the rules that means that technically you could have an endless firing match between the Kelermorph and Mark. If Mark decided to shoot some neophytes, because the Gunslinger ability is only battle line units nearby, then the Kelermorph, if he's in range, can shoot back. And it doesn't have to be at Mark. It could be a unit of Necron warriors that's next to Mark. And then Mark's multi-threat eliminator triggers, and he shoots again at the neophytes, which causes the Kelermorph to shoot again at the Necron warriors. And back and forth it goes until one side is completely wiped out. All within the space of a single shooting phase. Shooting phases are not meant to last for several hours, so Games Workshop may want to change that to once per phase. And I'm pretty sure that Mark would win because of the armor penetration on his weapons, meaning they'll go straight through the neophyte's armor. And with the 18-inch range on his pistols, he could just stay out of range of the Kelermorph, so the Kelermorph can never shoot him. That would be a cowboy just getting cut down in his prime, or evidently past his prime of 8th and 9th edition. And Mark is only 70 points compared to the Kelermorph's 55 points. Not a lot of points difference for a much better model. So what can we do with the Kelermorph? Because we're obviously going to use him because he's very cool. He pairs very nicely with neophytes because you're going to have a squad of 10 or 20 of them. A larger squad that can survive and take some hits compared to the smaller 5 or 10 model acolyte squads. But the Kelermorph doesn't have a great role as an assassin anymore. He might be able to take out a couple of mortar teams that are on an objective, but again, he's unlikely to do 6 wounds to wipe out all 3 teams. So there'll still be a team left firing mortars, holding an objective, assuming that the team passes their battle shock test in the coming turn. So if he's not great at pop up and kill anymore, what do we use him for? What's going to be his role on the battlefield? Well, he could be quite good at home defense. There he is, protecting the homestead. He's not amazing at Overwatch, and since he can't be in a unit of neophytes, you can't just have the whole group fire Overwatch together, so he has to stay still, let the neophytes get shot by whatever it is that's just come out of reserve, and then he can fire back at them and perhaps knock a couple of wounds off. It may be an idea just to have him entirely by himself. As he's got lone operative, he could sit on a back objective, not get hit by any indirect fire, because lone operative prevents that, and he's cheaper than a 10-man neophyte unit or even 5-man acolyte squad, so he could be a cheap base holding model, even if the objective that's in your deployment zone, assuming there is one, is right out in the open. no one can shoot him, unless they're able to deep strike themselves. So being a cheap model that can hold an objective in the back is probably what I'm going to end up using him for, rather than being someone that pops up, attacks a character, fails, and then dies in a gunfight blaze of glory. There again, if he was near a neophyte squad, and he was about to take a lot of shots that the neophytes normally wouldn't be able to cover for, because he's not part of an attached unit, you can use Unquestioning Loyalty for one command point, and for your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, you can pass all of the wounds onto that neophyte squad instead. Another potential command point you could use on him is Perfect Ambush. Now, he's not going to be able to much improve his ballistic skill beyond the 2+ it already is, unless there's an enemy that gives you -1 to hit, and that will let you improve the armor penetration of his auto stubs from 0 to -1, but that's still not doing a great amount of damage, and that stratagem is much better spent on acolytes or neophytes that are coming from reserve in the same turn. So I think we've kind of established that he's a fun character, but not a competitive character. With fun in mind, do you want to buy one? And maybe you want some other Genestealer cult models too. I really want to buy one though. But at £19, 24 euros, 33.50 American dollars, or 38 Canadian dollars, he's kind of expensive. So what do? Oh, well, then we'll just wait for entropy and the slow decay of the universe to claim us all. Or we buy 10 neophytes and convert them. Oh, that's much better. Let's do that one. So while you're converting one neophyte to have all of the pistols, you can get a biophagus from cutting the banner and using the spiky bits that were at the side, put them on the top, and use this head with the mask. There's your biophagus. With an extra barrel on one of the auto guns, you can pretty easily get a Sanctus sniper. You've got a model with a demolition charge arm. There's your Reductus. And the two larger models that are meant to be equipped with heavy weapons, like mining lasers, they could easily become a Primus and a Locus. That Genestealer cult symbol you cut off the top of the banner so that you could easily make a biophagus, put that on the Locus. There you go, it looks just like this model, or pretty similar. And that'll save you, saving is a technical term, quite a bit of money. So I expect many of you will still be playing with him in casual games. If we're thinking along those lines, Prowling Adjutant may be a useful enhancement. For an extra 15 points, putting him at the same points as Mark, that means that when an enemy moves within 9 inches of him, he can move D6, hopefully to get out of that 12-inch range, so his lone operative kicks in and he cannot be targeted. That way, he could survive potentially on an objective for a bit longer, before he then gets one round of shooting, and then dies in a blaze of glory. I'm Christian von Carmian. I am an adult. Now leave me alone to play with my toy soldiers on my Western Cowboy playset, and watch a Genestealer cult video about another lone gunman, but it has a twist ending that you won't see coming. I will see you there.